Hi, I'm Jeff Fier. Welcome to Culture is Everything. Today I'd like to begin a series of videos where we go deeper into the concepts that I introduced in the book. This will not be a replacement for the book. Uh, we cover a lot of ground, have a lot of great examples within it, talk specifically about tools and techniques and approaches within the covers of that book that cannot be replicated in a video presentation such as this. But what I can do is revise and extend upon the concepts that are covered in there and make a nice companion piece, if you will, to the book itself. Today I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth with you about company culture, what it is, how it's defined, where it comes from, what it's supposed to do. And in upcoming episodes, we'll be pulling that thread and getting deeper and deeper into what you do about culture when it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Okay? Everybody's heard about company culture. It's been a big topic of discussion, particularly the last few years. And there's been no shortage of opinion about different kinds of company cultures, ones that we admire, ones that are less admirable, and what kind of company culture we desire, companies we like to work for. Right? But what has been missing is a real crisp, concrete definition of what a culture is, what it does, and where it comes from. And that's what I'm going to provide you today, courtesy of Culture is Everything. Company culture is the manner by which an organization's values are communicated, understood, and lived. Okay, now say that again. A company culture is the manner by which an organization's values are communicated, understood, and lived. Let's unpack that a little bit. Manner by which. A culture is not a dead thing. It's not an abstract piece of paper that's put in somebody's drawer. It's an action. Culture actually does something. And in this case, it takes a set of shared values and transmits them effectively, translates them into day-to-day behavior. When you have a culture, then no matter what the novel situation that comes up during the course of the day, the culture helps guide you into how you should behave regarding that particular event. Organization's values. Every organization that we're part of has some sort of ethos or values that it subscribes to. Most common among these, no surprise, would be we're customer focused. Okay? Customer is king. Customer is always right. These are some customer-related, customer-centric values that you're probably very familiar with. Okay? A value is a decision between things, and it's really a setting apart of certain behaviors as more important, more crucial to the company's purpose than others. Communicated. These values have to be communicated. They can't be secret. Otherwise, you won't get the behavior you're looking for. An organization is a group of very different people. And if you want them to behave in a similar fashion, you have to tell them how you expect them to behave. So communication is very important. Understood. No matter how good a job we do communicating, I can put a big sign above the door that's in beautiful brass letters that says integrity first. And if I don't define integrity sufficiently so that people understand it, you're never going to get the behavior you think you're going to get by putting that sign where you put it. Okay? And live. This is the most important aspect of any culture. How is it actually lived? Look, I guarantee you, if you take a second, you will think of many companies which claim to be one thing and are in fact another. Their behavior does not match their culture as communicated, as understood. Behavior doesn't line up with. They're not living their values. Probably nothing could be more common, right? Especially for companies that get into trouble than not living up to their values. Finally, when we talk about culture, I mentioned a couple of seconds ago that uh, a culture helps a company to do something, to achieve its objectives, to fulfill its purpose. That's why a culture exists. If you're the leader of a company, and if that company is not a one-person company, then the only way that your company achieves its goals is through other people. So you need a culture to transmit your values to those other people to get the behaviors that you're looking for that ultimately fulfill the company's purpose. Okay. From the sporting world, we have the example of the New England Patriots. They've been dominant in the NFL for the last 20 years or so, much to folks who are not Patriots fans' chagrin. And their culture exists to do one thing. It's to win Super Bowls. It's that simple. They've been successful at that, and part of it is the clarity of purpose. You could argue that every NFL team exists to win the Super Bowl, so purpose should be the same pretty much everywhere. But in their case, they built a culture around that that enables them to be competitive and get to that Super Bowl, and when they get there, win them more often than not. Culture helps them achieve their purpose. We think in the business world of a company like Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines was founded on a very simple vision: be the low-cost carrier on the routes that they service. Their founder has been known to say, anybody could run this company. All they got to do, anytime a decision needs to be made, is say, does it help us be the low-cost carrier on the routes that we service? But it's a little bit more than that. Southwest also has a vibrant culture, especially around customer service, that's been noted. They make flying fun. And the thing is, it doesn't cost them anything, because if it cost them anything to do that, that would kind of conflict with being the low-cost carrier on the routes they service. But the way they look at it is if we're the low-cost carrier on the routes that we service, then why can't we have some fun? And why can't our customers have some fun? And so then they have flight attendants get on during the safety briefing and have a little fun with it. Why not? Doesn't hurt anybody, gets somebody that gets attention on something that needs attention, doesn't cost anything, doesn't conflict with the overall purpose, and it makes it, a little bit more fun for an airline that's operating where, hey, we can't just spend money to, to make things easier. You think also of a company like Amazon.com. So when Jeff Bezos founded that company, people were used to a retail shopping experience. You go into the store, check the stock, find something you like, maybe chit-chat with the person behind the counter, ask some questions perhaps, get your product and leave. So especially in the early days of the internet, that kind of experience really wasn't common online. And the concern was that if you are just clicking a button, you may not have the same positive view of the experience that you would if you went into a brick and mortar store. So Bezos set out to change that by making the e-commerce experience more customer focused and more involved than the retail experience. They've had tremendous success with it, and they will tell you that of all their cultural values, customer focus is the number one. That's the one that they don't budge on. So where does this come from? Well, I've given you a hint in some of these examples where culture actually comes from. It is an emanation of leadership. A number of years ago, one of my colleagues got a copy of a Patriots playbook. And the Patriot Way was obvious within that playbook, the first 2 to 3 pages of which were nothing more than teaching people how to huddle before a play. Now in football, before each play is executed, before the ball is snapped and players go into motion, the team gathers, particularly on offense, a little bit away from the ball to call the next play, discuss some things, make sure everyone knows what their job is. Knowing what your job is and doing your job is the essential element of the Patriot Way. Okay? And so professionals who have been playing football since they were 5 or 6 years old, so a lot of cases, 17 years, 20 years, 25 years for these guys. And yet every year They spend days just learning how to get together and get the play. Because that attention to detail is so important, because you can't really do your job if you don't know what it is. And that's all part of the Patriot Way. That comes straight from the mind of Bill Belichick, their head coach. That kind of focus on execution that's essential to their culture. Know your job, do your job. Okay? We talked a little bit about Amazon and Bezos' passion for customer service. It comes straight from the top. You know, Bezos was fond of saying that every door goes two ways, right? You can walk through a door and you can walk back through it if it doesn't work out. So they've been willing to experiment with things to enhance the customer experience that other companies have not, for fear that they make a mistake. But he's willing to take those mistakes, take the cost of those mistakes, and move on. Just, you know, if it doesn't work, we'll switch out and do something else. Again, that comes straight from how his mind works and from what he wants to see, and that gets faithfully communicated and then ultimately lived by the many thousands of Amazon associates out there. Okay. So, company culture, the manner by which an organization's values are communicated, understood, and lived by its members. Its purpose is to help the company more effectively achieve its purpose as a collective. And that culture is defined by leadership. So who's responsible if the culture is not being lived? No, it's leadership. Leadership is responsible for culture. They define it, they communicate it, make sure it's understood, reinforce it within their day-to-day operations, make sure that people are actually living it. So where we see a disconnect between what's up on the wall in terms of an organization's values and how those employees actually operate day to day, we know who's responsible for fixing it, don't we? It's the company's leadership. Thank you and have a great day.